Jesus says you would know them by their fruits. You will know them by their fruits. If you ever went looking for an apple tree, you know well enough in your life you're not going to go to an orange tree looking for apples. And it's the same way that if you're smart enough in your life that you get a bunch of apples and you decide to eat one and you look at it and you notice it's rotten. Some people cut that rotten part out of it and they eat the rest of it. But they look down at the rest of the apples, they notice that decay of that apple has started to affect the other apples, which means the whole bunch basically eventually, even though you may cut out the pieces from it, eventually the whole thing is basically going to rot and decay, right? Just because of that one decaying apple, right? Jesus referred to the people who said it would come in the name of good, in his name, and they will come bearing a certain fruit. And every single human being bears fruit. From the time a tree is planted, it's planted down and its roots go down into the earth and it grows and it eventually comes up. I'm talking about trees that bears fruit, right? It will eventually bear some kind of fruit. The fruits that Jesus was speaking about was not only character, was that special something, I shouldn't say special, was that something that you can't see clearly enough unless you have the discernment, heavenly discernment to see what's really going on with what's presented before you. If we are looking for something new in our life, we're not going to be well aware of something that is unfamiliar coming into our environment, who's handing out a fruit to you and saying, taste this, it tastes good, right? You'll never know that. Experience is going to bring that, right? As years go on, right? But in the name of fruitfulness that people do bring forth, some people call it a vibe that they give off. And there's two components to life as you're going to live it. It's going to be what's safe and what's unsafe. There's some people you're going to meet in your life, and they're going to, I find that people too, and I mean, I've done it too, so I got to be careful what I'm saying here. But when people are too quick to put a label, because no one wants to be labeled to be a bad person. I've heard people say that they're empaths, right? They ain't going to come out and say they're narcissists, right? And yet they showed a clear sign that they don't really care enough about other people. The thing is about an empath is able to basically, it's like a massive radar system. They're totally aware of everything that's going on around them and everything that's going on inside of them. Absolute awareness. In light of that, they tread very carefully. And what I mean by that, with a whole lot of manners. Okay? Because it's such an acute awareness. It comes at a certain level of I shouldn't say a certain level, but a high level of dignity with it. It has the ability to, if a person would act a certain way, they would act like, let's say, for instance, they like to burp in public and they don't mind letting go a few of their backside air, right? Well, some people look over and go, "Oh my goodness, that person's a pig," right? Now they're gonna not be too quick to do it, to be careful about doing that in a public situation because they don't want to be rejected, right? But you will notice by certain things that they do that are crass, CRASS. They're crass enough to do those things. They're the kind of people that will have you waiting for them whilst they're doing whatever they're doing. And they want to get a second thought that, as a matter of fact, they don't even have the awareness that they're literally making you feel uncomfortable. Empaths are different because they do know. See, the thing is about in what is generally required in anyone is right there in the Bible. What is required of people is kindness, right? That's why Jesus says, "Love your neighbor as you would yourself." Right? He says, "Hey, if you're gonna care a lot about yourself, like I know you do, then love your neighbor just the same. Give them the same kind of attention." Now, I'm not talking about give people attention to the point of they're stalking you, right? But I'm not going on that avenue. But just talking about overall general common decency. When Jesus says about knowing people's fruits, okay, there is something that comes from people, and if you watch them closely in their manners, the little things they're doing, okay, you invite them over. I know they even people who had they call them they had higher societies and whatever. They used to class people by those who would come and serve themselves first, and those who would come to their dinners and whatever and eat their food right down to the last drop. It and now I can be a little nutty thinking this way, but it means that person is too needy. They're too greedy. They don't care how they appear to others, right? I've heard other people in knowing their fruits, the ones that like to say, "Tell it as it is," right? And as time goes on, you discover that these people really lack a whole lot of tact. They lack the ability to be very diplomatic, right? In the name of classiness, in the name of fruitfulness, a person, we're sold a bill of goods, and it's right and it's wrong, but that we ought to be not as careful about how others perceive us. Like, who cares? Whatever they want to think that way, fine, right? And I'm in the avenue of where you got to live your life, and you can't please everybody all the time, right? So you're not out to do that. But if you're a person who really do care enough that your presentation, what you have present inside of you, shows, and what it shows is that you're a person of manners, a person that will show up into a person's home, and they won't be left with a bad taste after you left. They won't leave you to be a suspect should something go wrong. Your reputation precedes you. Not so with those who don't have good fruit. Okay? Manners to me is everything. And it shouldn't be, I should say, to me, it should be in the common denominator to when the term is used, society. We are called upon, whether we will like it or not, to be socially active in one way or another, because that's how we survive, right? And the ones who basically are trained right, whether they themselves take on the training from God, they allow the values of the Most High, one way or the other, they are going to be correct. You won't find a lot of faults, if anything, with them. Of course, the ones who are basically without their dignity are going to find a whole lot of faults. And that's another thing too. Another bad fruit that you'll encounter that have bad fruit is they are fault finders. They seem to put the cart before the horse. If you do something, they're going to be the ones who are basically to mention in a second breath, well, did this get hurt while you were doing it? Did the floor just got scratched? They jump ahead. They assume, right? They're the very people who don't like stuff done to them, but they don't find it a problem measuring the same stuff they want done to them. They don't mind trampling upon it for others. They have rights, but you have some rights, and I'll give that to you. They're basically the kind of people that are going to look at you that you're. Now, there's a time and a place for this. What I'm saying, if you suspect somebody don't have good fruit, you are to basically be very careful, and you are to test the ground, right? But what is being given to you, because some fruits does have worms, and some fruits are also poisonous, right? But these kinds of folks will live their life consistently that you are guilty before proven innocent. I think one of the most troublesome ways to live one's life is to live one's life too suspicious. I think one ought to turn on the eyes of discernment when they know they're going to be meeting people, especially in the society we're living in today. People are abandoning a whole lot of good stuff, values, and they're settling for everyone. If they're doing it, well, I guess it's okay for me to do it too. They will call evil good and good evil. Left will be right, right will be left, right? Up is down, down is up, right? But in the midst of all of it, you are called upon to test the fruit. Test the fruits. When Jesus said that you will know them, this to me is probably the ultimate place of growth, that you go from testing to knowing. And the majority of the times, and I'll just leave this with a food for thought and an inspiration. The majority of the times, if you are the kind of person who cares a whole lot for other people, and you would not even consider, even for a second, hurting another person, and if you did, you try to make right by it, okay, you will know right away their fruit. And that is the power of life when you're living it. Because once you begin to allow that, the knowing, the first that you just know, don't back away from it. That is a gift. That's an amazing gift to have. And I really believe God downloads that gift only to people that he wants to stay safe. Have a good day, and do like and subscribe. Thank you.